Hi everyone and welcome back. So a little bit scruffy, I've just got back from a ride, but I've had an amazing day because I went down to JD Racing in Saltash in Cornwall, my local KTM dealer, and they had a used KTM 1290 Super Adventure R on the forecourt, which they really kindly allowed me to take out for a ride. I've been wanting to ride one for a while now. I was really curious, and even more curious because I've just spent the last 2 days on the Dave Thorpe Honda Experience on Exmoor in North Devon, riding the Honda Africa Twin 1100Ls. So got a really good insight into those bikes, and I've got some footage that I'm going to put together as a bit of a review about the Honda Africa Twin. So, keep an eye out for that and find out what I thought about that bike. We did some pretty good off-road stuff on it. Very hot, very dry. So yeah, keep an eye out for that video and we'll get around to that. But anyway, back to the 1290 Super Adventure R. So I've been wanting to ride one for ages, and I went down and it was just standing there on the forecourt. I only went down for some chain lube and sort of ended up having a test ride of this bike. And I've been trying to think about where these bikes sit really, because I've got the 890 Adventure R, which sort of sits in the middle. It's a sort of medium to large adventure bike with an 890cc engine, and it sort of pretty much does everything. But my brain's been going a little bit crazy recently trying to think, do I need to fill in either side of that? And I've always tried to get one bike to do everything, and I am realizing that there are some things I'd like different bikes for. One of those things is the really long journeys, so the big long motorway journeys, and the KTM Adventure R does work. It's very tolerable, and you've seen that in my previous reviews. It does work and I was pretty happy with it. But I wanted to see what it's like getting back onto a big bike, and having had the 1290 Super Adventure S, I loved that bike, but it really was only suitable for the road in the way I ride. So I wanted to try the Super Adventure R and see what that was like. So let's get out onto the road. It's a little bit sketchy in terms of the footage. It's a windy day. I just had one GoPro with me, so I had to get what I could with the equipment I had on such a spontaneous ride out on this bike. So stay watching. I'd like to thank everybody for subscribing and for liking the videos. I've had about 55,000 views now. So if you do like what I'm doing, there's going to be plenty more of this. Please hit that subscribe and also hit a like as well if you do actually enjoy this video, because that will help the YouTube algorithms find this type of content. So let's get on with the ride, and I'll come back to you at the end and give you my conclusions on what I thought of the KTM 1290 Super Adventure R.
Hi everyone, I got really lucky there. I went down to JD Racing in Saltash just to get some chain lube, and they had a used 1290 Super Adventure R on the forecourt, and they said it wasn't going to be there for long, and I got lucky and been able to take it out for a test ride. So apparently this one's got quite a few mods on it. I've not really checked out what they are yet, but it's got the heated seat and the heated grips. So I'm going to take it for a bit of a spin and see what it's like, and this is going to be really interesting because I rode the Africa Twin for the last 2 days on the Dave Thorpe Honda Experience, so did quite a bit of road riding and a lot of off-road riding on that one, so I got a really good feel for that bike. And it's quite interesting getting on this one the day after to give it a go and see what it's like. And what I liked about the Africa Twin was it just felt, it had that lazy power, and it just went really nicely. You could get up to the road speeds on roads like this and have a really good time, and it felt just a little bit less frantic than my 890 Adventure R. And it's working out where all these bikes sit and what we want to do with them. I think it's very difficult to get one single bike that does everything we want. So it's whether we could justify getting a second bike, and whether it sits at the bottom end of the scale. Do we get a small capacity one for doing bits of off-road and green laning, or do we go for, not indicating that bus, or do we go for the big one at the end of the range that will do those huge miles? And I must admit, coming down to the dealer today, the 890 it felt noisy and just a little bit industrial compared to the Africa Twins we were riding, and I guess that's to be expected really. They're different bikes and I think it's unfair to compare them. I love the 890 and it's a really cool bike. And we're looking at sort of different things here, and I wonder if I'm looking at a bike that I can do longer miles on, you know, do those big journeys, but then still be able to do off-road. And I was talking to people yesterday about this, and I think these big bikes probably sit at like 70% on-road and 30% off-road in terms of what use I would want from a bigger bike. So it's be able to munch those miles and then have other options. So far, right, this bike is feeling really nice. It's super smooth, and it feels different to the 1290 Super Adventure S which I had. I don't know how it feels different, but it just feels a little bit lighter. The riding position feels a bit more compact, and I quite like it. This has got the standard seat, so it's pretty tall for me. I can tiptoe the ground on both sides, but you know, that's okay. So this bike's got this standard KTM large TFT screen, which if you've ridden any of the others, it should be fairly familiar. And my first impression is, coming from the 890, I can see everything on it. I don't have to hunt around on that smaller screen, and I can see things really nicely on that, which is pretty cool. There is a warning light on because the heated seat has been borrowed for another bike, so there is a disconnection, and that warning light is okay if any of you eagle-eyed people spot it. It'd be nice to get past this car in front. Wow, okay, so that is just instant point and squirt. Instant. It's really incredible there. You've just got that 1290 power again and that huge amount of torque. What I'd really like to do is try this bike off-road as well. And I'm going back to Sweet Lamb to do a KTM course again in August, and I wonder about contacting them and see if they can get a 1290 Adventure R from KTM. So you'll see there's quite a lot lower screen on this compared to the Super Adventure S, and you can feel that in the helmet. You know, you've got quite a bit more wind on the helmet, more wind on your chest, and completely expectable. And I suppose you could fit on the wind deflector that you can get from KTM, which I have got for the 890, and see what that does. And yeah, that does do a nice job of just pushing the wind up over your helmet a bit better. Like in the mirrors, you've got a great view on those. They're a bit higher so you can see, but you know, these won't be that robust off-road. I think they will take a bit of a battering. So if you were considering taking this off-road, you need to change those mirrors around for something that would fold. It does come with the crush bars as standard, which I like, just to give it a bit of protection. Wow, that is lovely. I like that. I can't work out how it feels different to the 1290 Super Adventure S. It feels lighter. It feels more nimble, and I'm pretty sure the handlebars feel the same. Yeah, I'm loving that power. Really nice. But then it should be a good one on road, you know, with that engine. Okay, you can get to fairly illegal speeds very quickly on this, but that acceleration is absolutely beautiful. It's smooth, it's strong, and it just pulls like a big truck. Absolutely amazing. And the weight of it is tolerating this wind really well. There's a huge side wind at the moment, which is not very pleasant. I'm wearing my Climb summer gear, and it's saying the temperature is 16 degrees, and that's about the threshold for this gear to start getting cold. So it's not quite as warm as I'd like, but yeah, quite a strong wind here. So yeah, so you've got a lot of bike in front of you compared to the 890, which feels, you know, a little bit shorter. You've got this sort of super tanker view in front of you as you ride along. And I don't mind that, and it feels quite similar to the Africa Twin from yesterday, where you can just see a lot going on down here. But this is all nice and neat. On the 890, this is all quite messy in this area, and you get used to that, but I do like this neatness here, and it looks pretty good. Compared to the Super Adventure S, this has the fully manual suspension. So you've got the manual adjustments on top of the forks, and then you'll have the preload and rebound damping and compression adjustments as well, which are all manual. I don't know whether this bike could be similar to the 890, where I've actually set it on relatively soft off-road settings, and that seems to behave pretty well on the road as well. Quite a few people have had some complaints about how harsh KTM suspension can feel, and whether that's just because it's WP suspension and designed for off-road, you know, it's more off-road tuned. It could be that, but yeah, this suspension so far is feeling lovely. It's not feeling jittery at all, it's not feeling harsh, it's feeling super comfortable and really nice. Now, if I knew a green lane round here, I'd almost take the chance and go and see what this is like, but I'd hate to drop a bike that isn't mine and where I'd have to pay for the damage to it. So I'm not going to go any further this way because it's actually pretty cold, and I left my other layer in the panniers on my bike. So I'm just going to go around this round. Actually no, let's go left. So yeah, so we've got the standard screen, we've got all the switchgear here, and one thing I do remember is this indicator switch. It's very difficult to cancel and it's quite squidgy, and they don't seem to have changed that at all. So it's very undefined in terms of the movements that it has. You've got the hat toggle here to navigate through the display, and then you just toggle through it like this using the up and down buttons, sideways buttons, and then you've got the back button just to get back to where you want to go. So this is all quite intuitive. You've got the cruise control options over here as well, and this is pretty identical to the Adventure S. I do like this. It feels like a fairly compact riding position, which, you know, I'm at 5'7", 5'8", and I do like that. Lovely, really enjoying this. Nice little branch on the road there. So this feels beautiful through the twisties. I do remember the Adventure S, it got quite tiring at the end of a long day, and it might be I've just got more bike fitness now. From all the off-road riding, you know, I've done a lot of it, and I certainly felt pretty fit for the last 2 days, and woke up this morning after 2 solid days of off-road feeling pretty good, which surprised me. Nice river view. Quite dangerous roads these, they're very blind. Wow, that is really nice. Again, you've got to keep a really close eye on that speed. It's very easy to get illegal pretty fast on this with that engine. But this V-twin is really smooth. I had one of the original RC8s back in 2008, and I think that was one of the first iterations of this type of engine, you know, the really big V-twin, and I seem to remember that always, it cut out on me if you were sort of coming into roundabouts and junctions, and especially if it's hot, it would sometimes just cut out on you, which is a bit strange. Yeah, considering this has got the 21-inch front wheel as well, and we've got a bit of some road biased but off-road tyres, the corning is really nice. It really sort of turns in well, it feels nimble, it feels quick. Yeah, let's get a bit legal again. So just keep an eye on that speed. Very easy to go a bit crazy. getting back into the wind again now. So that's the second time it's done that. Just a little bit of a stutter on the pickup in 6th gear. Not sure why. You know, we had sort of 3,000 revs there, and it just stuttered a tiny bit on that pickup. Right, so I'm going to find a place to stop, and we'll have a walk around the bike and see what's happening on this. So we'll go down here. The throttle response is lovely. It's really smooth, really unjerky on this. So even just driving slowly like this and pootling along, you know, into 4th gear, and it just rolls really beautifully. I must say, it feels great. I'm liking this a lot. So I can't take this on off-road, unfortunately. But I'm just going to try standing up on it and see what the balance is like, what it feels like. I'm really liking the smoothness of that engine. It just sort of, there's no grab on it, which is really pleasant. It feels, you know, pretty well balanced. It steers quite nicely. The hand position is pretty good. And you know, you can't get an idea of what it would be truly like off-road, but in terms of the actual position, it feels pretty comfortable, pretty intuitive. Almost nicer than the Africa Twin that I rode yesterday. What I did miss on the Africa Twin was the quick shifter. You know, you think it's a gimmick, but I got used to that quick shifter and I love it. When you come back to it, it makes riding just smoother and generally a bit nicer. So yeah, that's pretty nice standing up. Nice balanced, neutral position, which I like. So it's not really off-road, is it? But it's a country lane. A little bit of grass, so it helps. It actually feels lighter than the Africa Twin, and even the 890. That was really nice. Even just that tiny bit there felt really good. Would have been tempted to go up there, but it's not public land and be a bit rude. So that was really nice. I didn't change any of the modes there. I didn't change it over. It was just in normal road mode, and it felt really balanced and really stable. Pretty nice. And I know that wasn't a true challenge, but you know, it gave me a slight idea. So let's do a quick walk around the bike, show you what it looks like. I do like the colours actually, and it suits my helmet very nicely. I know that's a bit vain, but it does fit my helmet. I think possibly the worst view is the front of the bike. Yeah, it's a good looking bike, and the blue on it works really nicely, so it's a good looking bike. So let's have a closer look at it. So from the front you've got the shorter screen on it compared to the S, and I'm liking that white. That's really nice. This looks like it has radiator guards already built in, which is good, unless those are extras. I need to check with the dealer about this, because that's a used bike. And then we've got the crash bars as standard as well, which is pretty useful. There's nothing higher up for protection. Coming around the bike, we've got mirrors are sticky outy. You know, I think those would take quite a battering if you took this off-road, so I would really like to get some mirrors. And also these are pretty flimsy. These are just wind guards here for the hands, so I don't think those would give any protection to the levers at all, and the levers are pretty fine. So we definitely want to get something on there if we're going to consider taking this off-road. So we've got the manual WP suspension here. On the left we've got the compression damping, and on the right we've got the rebound damping, and they're just twist clicks on those. You can manually set those. Coming down here, we've got what looks like the preload adjuster here, so you can manually adjust the preload. And that's quite nice, and that turns really easily, so that's good and very, very accessible. Just looking for the other adjustments on the rear shock absorber, and I think they must be on the other side. Let's have a look. So yeah, it's the WP Explore, and it looks like to change other settings we need to take this bit off, but usually this bit just pulls off like that, so you can get to the other settings on the suspension. I'd need to check what each of those was, and it looks like the compression damping, so the rebound damping might be right down here, that little screw you can see in there. So it's all accessible. You need to make sure you have your tools with you. And that just goes back on. What's strange is you've got security on these bikes, but actually you can get in here to release the seat. So even if you got a locked seat, and I thought that was a little bit of a fail on KTM's part, the fact you could unlock the seat and get to the alarm and bits and pieces just by taking that panel off. While we're on the components, we've got the rear brake cylinder cover here. That's pretty flimsy actually, but the brake cylinder is metal under there, so that's a little bit flimsy and could be fairly susceptible to rocks, as could the exhaust coming under here. And then looking here, the windscreen is adjustable with the dial, and what I might do, I might give that a go on some faster roads on the dual carriageway and see how much that helps. But that sits down really nicely low, so for off-roading you've got a really nice low screen there, which is nice. Tyre wise, we've got the Bridgestone Battle Axe Adventure Cross, the AX41s. I've not ridden these before, and on the road they feel really nice, so I was really quite impressed with those. And if we just come around to the back, it's like a fairly narrow section on it, but you can see somebody's ridden this for, it looks like 1,200 miles, and that back tyre in the centre is really squaring off already, so I think it's going to eat through rear tyres, especially the more off-road centred ones, so that's going to be a little bit of a cost there. It's got keyless ignition, so to power on you press this button here with the key on, and if you watch the screen it does the usual KTM startup. So we've got that. We know there's a fault with that, so I'm going to press the return button here and that'll cancel that warning, though you'll notice that warning light does stay on when we're riding. So just coming to the controls here, we've got this hat, we've got the system for entering. You press the centre one for getting to the menu, and that'll take you into the different bike menus that you can find. A little bit of reflection there, unfortunately, but yeah, you've got all the settings there you can get to. You can go to the bike settings, the ride mode, and if you look, you've got street, road, sport, off-road, and rally mode, which is the one I'm liking a lot on the 890 Adventure. So on the rally mode we've got the buttons here which are actually the cruise control ones as well. So this one here is the plus, there's one on the back here that's minus, and that will change. If you look at the red number on the left, that's the slip control. So at 9, that's most intrusive traction control, and it won't really let much wheel slip at all, if any. And then we press the minus button and that goes all the way to 1, which will just spin it out to your heart's content. So that's rally mode. So yeah, this collection of switches here is actually quite nice. All of this works really well. The only bit I don't like, as I said before, is the indicators. They're very squidgy, very soft, and very unaffirming when you use them. So you often got to look to check you've got the right indicator on or that you've turned it off. But I do like this switch gear on this side. Come to this side, we've got the customizable switch as well, so you can do ride modes, whatever you want with those. You can tell the bike what you want it to do. So welcome back after the ride, and apologies again for slightly worse than usual footage. It was a very spontaneous review. I got the opportunity to try this bike and I just had one camera with me, so I couldn't really get any other footage in any of the shops, so apologies for that. But I hope I gave you a feeling of what this bike is like to ride. And as I said, I've been wanting to ride one of these for a long time.
And I was really, really impressed with it. I was completely seduced by this bike. And having ridden the 1100 Africa Twin L's yesterday and the day before, we did some quite fruity stuff on those. You know, we did some significant off-road. We had the elite group going, and we did some quite challenging stuff. You know, there were quite a few people falling off, and they were good riders. You know, I was probably the worst rider in the group. So, you know, had a good day on those, and to come straight to the 1290 and try it right next to it was really enlightening, and I really enjoyed that feeling. So my impression is the 1290 just felt smoother, it felt more dialed in, it felt more planted, and you know, the engine on the Africa Twin was lovely, that smooth linear power curve on it. But then you get onto a KTM and it just makes you grin. It's got that KTM factor to it. And that 1290 engine is an absolute beauty. It revs so smoothly, it's so quiet, and yet when you open it up, it absolutely goes crazy. You've got this beast that you're trying to tame. But when you're riding around town, when you're doing gentle stuff, it's very happy just to sit there, and it doesn't feel like it's trying to get away from you. It doesn't feel like it wants to be ridden harder. So it's your choice. You can decide whether to pootle along and go gentle, or whether you really want to try pushing that bike a bit harder. So in terms of what I liked about it, my main likes were the riding position. Everything just felt neutral and correct. I felt really well settled on the bike. And even standing up, that felt really sort of comfortable and normal as well. I loved the engine, and I liked the way it cornered as well. It turns into corners really nicely. It's really progressive. And those tyres worked really well. The Bridgestone tyres were really impressive. You know, for a big bike with 160 horsepower, and to have knobbly tyres on it, it really went round corners well, and I did try and get it over a bit on the roundabouts. Now, I really wanted to do a green lane and do a bit of off-road on it, but I just couldn't do that with somebody else's bike that I'd have to pay for any damage. So I'm really sorry I didn't do that. I'd love to have done that, but hopefully I will get that opportunity to do that in the future. Things I didn't like, not very much really. You know, it's a little bit too high for me, so I'd need to get the lower seat. I'm about 5'7.5" with a 30-inch inside leg, and I was struggling on tiptoes with the standard height, so I'd probably get the lowered seat if I got that bike. The rest of the riding position was lovely. The only other downside was that indicator switch, and it seems like such a tiny thing, but we use it so often, and to constantly have to be checking where it is and whether you've cancelled it can get a little bit irritating. But what I do remember is on the 1290 Venture S, which I had for about 3,500 miles, you do get used to it, and your thumb dials into it and it does start working. So I wouldn't let that put you off. The only other downside, I think, with a bike of this size and this much power, it's going to get through rear tyres really quickly. This bike only had 1,400 miles on it, but the rear tyre was really squaring off quite significantly already. So it's probably worth putting some thought into the type of tyre you get on it. Now, I was thinking about how we categorise this bike, and I look at the 890 Super Adventure R, and for me it's about a 50-50 bike. I'm very happy to take it off-road. I've done a lot of stuff on it now, but I'm also very happy to take it on-road, and it sits nicely in the middle. If I was filling in the bike garage at the bottom end, I'd be getting a lower capacity bike that was more dedicated to off-road riding, so a lightweight, lower capacity bike. And then at the other end, I want something that's going to really transport me like a spaceship down to the far end of continents, or if I wanted to take off across Europe and Asia, this bike would take me. And to do that, you've got to be able to cover those miles when you're carrying all your gear as well. And that does start to weigh things down, and it can be a bit wearing if you haven't got enough. And if you take the back roads, that's fine. But if you do want to blast it down motorways and auto routes, then I think we need more power and a bike that's more established doing that sort of thing. So I think this bike sort of fits in the probably 80-20 category. So we're probably going to use this bike about 80% on-road and about 20% off-road, hopefully a bit more off-road. But the great thing about it is it does have that power to take you very long distances, that intergalactic traveller. But then it has the ability to go off-road as well. And I'm certainly no Chris Birch. I've said right from the start, I'm a novice at this, and I'm an enthusiastic novice. I'm getting better and I'm really enjoying where I'm at now, but I'm certainly no Chris Birch and I'm not a pro rider. So I'm trying to look at this from the perspective of, I want to say, normal people, you know, the average rider who's going to be looking at these bikes. So I thought this bike was absolutely beautiful. It seduced me. Would I buy one? I certainly would if I could. I'd love to get one of these bikes. I'd love to have 3 bikes. Yeah, I'd definitely buy one of these because I thought it was an absolutely stunning bike to ride, and made even more powerful by riding the Africa Twins for 2 days before this. It really gave a good contrast to how these bikes ride differently. So thanks for watching, always appreciate your time. If you do like what I'm doing, and there's plenty more of this to come, then do hit that like button just to help the YouTube algorithms find all these videos. And if you would subscribe, that would be amazing, because then we can carry on growing this channel. If you do have any ideas or suggestions for what you'd like to see covered, and I've had a few requests for going over the kit I do, reviews on the kit I wear, so I'll go through some of that. And then I've got more medical videos in the pipeline as well. So thanks for watching, and see you next time. Happy riding, and go and have your adventures. Cheers guys.